It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead, another breakdown for an episode of Fear the Walking Dead. This one is for Season 6, Episode 13, which is called JD. Now, obviously JD is either June Dorie or John Dorie, and most fans were leaning towards it being June Dorie, but it turns out that it might actually be John Dorie. John Dorie actually returns in this episode, believe it or not in the way you think, but we'll break all of that down when we return. So stay tuned, we'll be back for more. Alright, before we jump into this, as always, if you're not a subscriber and enjoy the content by the end, consider subscribing to join our community, share and smash the like button, and press the bell to be notified when we upload. So with that said, let's dive right into it. So we're actually going to take a look at 2 teasers and 1 sneak peek from this episode. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the big reveal based on this teaser on a separate video later this week, but I will mention it obviously in this teaser breakdown because it's kind of revealed, but I will dive more into it later on. So this teaser starts with this shot of June. She's breaking into an RV. This RV actually comes up multiple times in the teasers and the sneak peeks. And then we have this shot of a walker, and then this shot of someone stepping on these eggs in a nest. I'm assuming this is June. Then we have this shot of June stabbing this walker in the head. And then this shot of her cleaning the knife after killing that walker that we just saw. And we obviously see John Dorie's gun. And it actually has the initial JD on it. JD is obviously also the title of the episode. And then we have this shot of her grabbing a map from the bag that she has. And then we have this shot of her kicking down this side mirror on the car. And then we have this shot of the road, and it's spray painted by the End is the Beginning group. And then we have this very interesting shot of June looking at a big map on a board with a lot of different pictures pinned to the board. This is actually very interesting. One of these is actually a barn that says the end is the beginning. Now what I'm assuming is happening here is right after June breaks into that RV that we just saw, she's gonna find a board with this map with these pictures. The owner of this RV is gonna be the older gentleman who we're gonna talk about in a bit. He's gonna show up in a minute. But I think that the gentleman is actually going around finding the different spots that the End is the Beginning group have marked. Why he might be interested in doing that is actually very irrelevant, and we'll talk about that. But this is probably inside the RV, and June is just finding these images related to the End is the Beginning group. So then we have this shot of her looking, and as you can see, there's more stuff. There's a lot more detailed stuff on the board that she's looking at, which we're gonna talk about. And then we have this shot of Sherry talking to Dwight. Sherry says, "I just want to find June and be done with it." So it looks like June has not returned, so they're looking for her. And then we have this shot of Dwight. This is obviously connected to the previous one. So Dwight is talking to Sherry about them finding June. And then we have this shot of Sherry on a horse riding away, which connects to this. And then we have this shot of someone, most likely someone from the End is the Beginning group. They ambush our survivors. So someone is shooting at the survivors here, which connects to this shot of a car window breaking, Sherry saying down, and then she's hiding behind the truck. And then we have this shot of the tires on the truck being shot, so it's a flat tire. And then we have this shot of someone fighting with someone else inside most likely the same RV that we looked at. There's a gunshot that goes off, which connects to this shot. So we have a bullet hole on top of the RV roof. And then we have this shot of the guy kind of being thrown inside the RV. I believe that's June on the left. I think she's the one driving, but I could be wrong. Then we have this shot of the RV coming to a full stop. And then we have this shot of June pointing her gun at this older gentleman that I mentioned earlier. Then we have this pretty badass shot of June pointing John Dorie's gun at this older gentleman. Now the guy says, "Where did you get that gun?" To which June replies, "Why should I tell you?" Now, why he might say that is very relevant as well. because if you remember, the gun had the initial JD on it, which stands for John Dorie. And I'm assuming that the gentleman recognized that and realized that this gun belongs to John. Now, if we kind of think about what John revealed about his father, things kind of line up. John Dorie talked about his father being a cop, and even I think mentioned that he's the one that gave him this gun right here with the initial on it. So that kind of explains it. This means that June is actually looking at John Dorie's father here. He's the one that she found. So that's pretty awesome. So this RV that June found belongs to this older gentleman who is probably John Dorie's father. Again, it's not 100%, but it's extremely likely at this point. Then we have this second teaser. We have this shot of June walking away. There's a bunch of walkers hitting these pikes. And then we have this shot of Morgan talking to Grace. Morgan says there is nothing that you or I can say or do that can make any of this okay. Not sure what he's referring to. Most likely the events of the previous episode, which is what happened to the baby. So then we have this shot of Grace. And then we have this shot of June breaking into the RV that we talked about. And then we have this. So we have these different newspaper articles and these different missing persons pieces of paper on a board. I'm assuming this is the exact same board that was in the RV. Now this is very interesting because it connects to a massive theory that at this point is very likely to be accurate. To understand that theory, we have to step back a little bit. Again, I'll do a second video on this, breaking this down further because I don't want to make this video long, but I do want to mention it and kind of cover the basics in this video. So if you remember, when John Dorie was talking about his father, he told someone, I believe it was Rabbi Jacob, that his father was after this serial killer. But when they found this guy, this serial killer, they couldn't charge him because they didn't have the evidence. That led to John Dorie's father actually having to frame this serial killer in order to be able to put him away. Now what's very interesting, and this is where the theory comes in, Teddy, who's the leader of this cult called The End is the Beginning, is likely to be that serial killer that John Dorie's father was after all those years ago and put in prison. Obviously, when the world fell, the serial killer, who's probably Teddy, escaped and basically created this cult called The End is the Beginning. So that's pretty awesome. And the way everything connects makes a lot of sense. Because let's think about it. John Dorie's father, who we're assuming is the older gentleman that we saw earlier, has this RV. This RV has a board in it that has all of these different references to The End is the Beginning group. It has different pictures of all of the locations that they marked. Who's the leader of that group? Teddy. What's also on those boards is these newspaper articles and missing people's notices related to this serial killing that happened, that John Dorie was most likely the prime detective for. So if you think about it, all of the things are lining up now. This means that John Dorie's father now is after Teddy, just like he was after the serial killer all those years ago. It's not 100%, but I think at this point it's like 99%. But very cool stuff coming up. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with that and whether John Dorie's father is going to basically join the survivors in fighting back and killing Teddy and his crew. The next shot we have is actually this shot that we looked at earlier. This guy ambushes the survivors, shoots at them. So we have Dwight and June here trying to find cover. So then we have this shot of them here behind the car. This shot of this walker crawling. And then we have this shot of the older gentleman who, again, we're assuming is John Dorie's father, saying, "Why are you here?" And then we have this shot of June looking at him, John Dorie's father with the shotgun pointed at her. And then we have the board that I was talking about in the background. So that's pretty awesome stuff. And then we have this shot of the RV again on the road. And then this shot of Dwight and Sherry on the horse riding away. And that's pretty much it. That's the teaser. That takes us to the sneak peek. The sneak peek is basically June breaking into the RV. So she opens the door here, gets in. She's carrying John Dorie's gun, which again has the initial JD on it. And then she looks at the board with the newspaper articles and the pictures related to the End is the Beginning group and areas that they marked. Also, the missing persons notices that we looked at earlier. That's pretty much it. June is looking at this, and this is probably where June is confronted by John Dorie's father with the shotgun. But that's pretty much it. That's everything that was in these teasers and sneak peek. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to share and smash the like button. If you're not a subscriber and enjoy the content, subscribe to join our community, share and smash the like button, and press the bell to be notified when we upload. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.